Well, good evening and welcome to Nashville. I'm Alan Jackson. One of the many things we've learned about the dysfunction of the Biden years is the deliberate nature of why he and Kamala Harris opened the border. They thought it would grow the Democratic voter base, assuming that anyone who came into this country without being stopped would somehow feel obligated to vote for the Democrats. Well, the fact is they badly miscalculated. Latino immigrants from many countries have been coming to America for years, a good many of them through legal channels, and they have their own ideas about what makes our country the go-to place to be. They cite the freedom, the opportunity, the ability to practice their faith and raise a family, all of which is more often aligned with conservatives, even more so now that Democrats are embracing socialism. Well, tonight we have a very influential man among the Latinos in this country. He has a radio show, a national TV program, and is the author of a new book titled The Rise of the Liberty-Loving Latino, A New American Revolution. Chris Salcedo, welcome to our show tonight.
Mr. Jackson, it's a pleasure to be here.
Well, let's start by telling us how badly the Biden administration misjudged opening the border.
Well, as you said, as a political calculation, they did it on purpose. They flooded this country with millions of illegal aliens, many of them unvetted from 168 countries. Might I add that one of the outflows of that was 320,000 illegal alien children being delivered into the hell on earth of sex slavery and forced labor. That was all at the hands of the Democrat Party. There was another byproduct of this, and we experienced it in my home state of Texas. The border communities were absolutely decimated as wave after wave after wave of criminal illegal aliens, narco-terrorists, human smugglers, human traffickers, all flooded into these areas, in particular in Texas. And you can look at the 2020 map, electoral map, and you can see that all the counties along the Texas-Mexico border were all blue at that time. And then when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris unleashed massive waves of illegality onto this country, and into Texas in particular, in 2024, they all went for President Trump. Mm-hmm. Those counties are now red. Why? Because as those Democrats were pleading for help to Washington, D.C., they were told to shut up and just take it, and they didn't.
Well, in general terms, can you share with our viewers what it is the Latinos are looking for when they come to America?
Well, it varies. I don't want to pretend to speak for every Latino out there. Right. There are liberty-loving Latinos like me. There are loudmouth leftist Latinos out there, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. We could not be further apart. There's nothing that unites me and that woman, nothing whatsoever other than our common humanity. She's a Marxist and a leftist. I'm a freedom lover. So when I say that the reason why a lot of Hispanics, Latinos came here to America, it's probably from my own family's general experience, but it's for the land of opportunity, the stability that the rule of law provides us, the U.S. Constitution. And it is a stark contrast to the countries that many of us have departed, our ancestors anyway, had departed, those that had succumbed to the Democrat way of doing things. The Democrats' ideology is ruinous, and it has ruined country after country after country in Latin America and elsewhere, and that's why people flock here. But I, as an American, would just prefer they come legally.
You know, a significant portion of the Latino community have embraced President Trump. What are the characteristics they're drawn to?
The America First sensibilities. You know, I've found that a lot of these left-wingers think that we are as stupid in the Latino community as they would like us to be, as a lot of their committed leftists are. I mean, they just voted for a Marxist in New York City. I mean, it doesn't get any more crazy than that, right? But I think one of the things that a lot of Latinos want to preserve here is the stability of the rule of law. They know where they came from was a basket case a lot of the times because of this elitist rule that ignores the rule of law and supplants everything in service to a political class, a minority political class at the expense of everybody else. So Latinos know and recognize that that is the recipe for disaster for any nation, and they don't want it here.
That's good. President Trump has worked hard to rid the country of anyone breaking laws in the country, whether they're from Nicaragua, Venezuela, China, or Iran. Are the Latinos, able to see what the president is trying to accomplish with the lawbreakers? Well, he's also providing a legal means of immigration for the people who want to follow the law?
Yes, they can see it. And sadly, we have a lot of left-wing arbiters and media who look at what the president is doing and try to cast it in the most disgraceful and disgusting light. I'll give you an example. The Democrats are all up in arms about a raid on a Chicago daycare center where illegal aliens were arrested. Now, the Democrats are saying, oh my goodness, ICE, Trump's thugs, they call them. That's their name for ICE, for law enforcement. Trump's thugs busted into a daycare center and arrested illegal aliens who were there looking after children in that daycare center. And they said, oh, that's untoward. Arresting illegal aliens in front of children, that's disgraceful and disgusting. I look at it a completely different way. I said our children, probably for the first time in Chicago, were exposed to the rule of law and the consequences of breaking that law. And what does it say about a Democrat Party and complicit Republicans? What does it say about them who would want to expose our children to unvetted criminal illegal aliens? I don't believe that our children should be exposed to the criminal element, but Democrats and complicit Republicans do.
You know, it has seemed to me that the whole concept of the sanctuary cities was really a magnet for those people who have broken the law, not just immigration laws, but who are living outside the law. And it's just a festering problem. Am I misunderstanding that?
No, you have it pretty much right. It is, look, a sanctuary state like California, a sanctuary city like Los Angeles, sanctuary city like San Francisco or New York or Chicago, right? What are they saying? We don't follow the law here. And we actually classify those who are enforcing the law as the bad guys. So what if we decided as Americans that we wanted to do that with some of the left's sacred cows? What about Obamacare, right? What if we decided, hey, you know what? We're not going to follow Obamacare because I don't agree with socialized medicine. I think it's destroying healthcare. It has destroyed healthcare in the United States. I don't want to comply. Do you think Democrats would sit still for that? Of course not. What if I don't want to comply with some of their unconstitutional Second Amendment restrictions that violate my defined constitutional rights in the U.S. Constitution to keep and bear arms? What if I decided to defy them defiantly on that? No, they would never sanction that. So why do so many Republicans think it's okay for sanctuary jurisdictions to exist? I think that the likes of Mitch McConnell and John Cornyn and those who are the more moderate Republicans have a lot of explaining to do as to why they tolerate such things.
I agree. Well, states like Texas and New York have spent hundreds of millions of dollars helping those who've come here the past many years. But you've pointed out a stunning statistic from California. California is spending 28 times more on health care for people who are here illegally than they are on state law enforcement. With a tight economy and the spread of crime, isn't that going to have to change real soon?
It won't. It should, but it won't. I've seen estimates. I can't verify, but I've seen estimates that say that 25% of California's population is illegal. They're going to spend 11 billion taxpayer dollars, yours and mine, by the way, it's federal and state taxpayer dollars, to give health care to illegal aliens. While you and I are scraping and suffering under Obamacare, those illegal aliens don't have to. They get all these benefits shoveled their way at our expense. And it's not going to change. Contrast that with what they're spending on law enforcement in California, over 340 million as opposed to 11 billion. It shows you exactly what the Democrats' priorities are. They are dedicated to foreign nationals at the expense of American citizens. They are dedicated to lawlessness at the expense of the stability of law and order. And it is why the rise of the Liberty-Loving Latino has happened, because we see the ramifications of all of that. And a lot of Latinos don't want that for their kids or for the future of this country. There's no other place to run after America.
Well, Chris, I want to get into your book in the next segment. Hope you can stay with us.
I will.
And for those of you watching, you can log on to ajnow.com and send me an email. Later this month, we're going to produce an entire show where you get to ask the questions, and I'll be responding to your emails. Leave your name and location and comment on whatever you think should be part of the national agenda in 2026. Then keep watching to see if we answer your questions. I'll be right back. We're back now with Chris Salcedo, radio and TV host, coming to us from Texas. Chris has a great new book out called The Rise of the Liberty-Loving Latino, A New American Revolution. It's available everywhere, though we always like to support the local bookstores. Well, Chris, I want to start by pointing out the contributions that Latinos have made. They enlist in our military in big numbers. 20% of the enlisted men and women are Latino. They also run about 15% of American businesses, and they're the fastest growing group in the country, already over 20% of the population. So tell us about some of the contributions that we don't always see.
Well, for me, I've always believed that focusing on what the Black contributions are, what the Latino contributions are, what the Asian contributions are, it is what each one of those groups does in furtherance of the American ideal. That's how I view it. And notice how we rarely talk about quote unquote white contributions, and we should, because it should be. And I think it was an interview with Mike Wallace that Morgan Freeman did, and Morgan Freeman was saying, I don't want a Black History Month. And this is kind of in line with my way of thinking here. And Mike Wallace asked, well, why don't you want a Black History Month? He goes, well, do you want a White History Month? He goes, well, no, I'm Jewish. He goes, okay, you want a Jewish History Month? He goes, no, I don't want that. No. Why? Because Black history, he says, is American history. The Latino contribution is the American contribution. The Asian contribution is the Asian contribution to America. It is what you can come to the United States of America and be an American. That is a miracle that no other nation on earth can claim. And it's one that I've always believed and cherished. So when we talk about what Latinos contribute, it's naturally because you can come here, you can plug into our system, and you maintain our system, and you contribute to it. Your cultural background, your point of origin, it contributes to that fabric that makes this country strong. And it is not diversity that makes America strong. It is our unity behind the American principles that does that.
Chris, I love your point. What's bound us together isn't our ethnicity or a language or a common history from a particular place, but we had a worldview, a Judeo-Christian worldview. And working together for that set of principles has made us the most prosperous place on the planet that holds our future. In your book, you make the case that much of the media and the Democratic Party as well have pushed the idea that to be Latino is to be liberal. That's just not true. Where do you think that's coming from?
It comes from the left-wing media, and it comes from a narrative over news mindset. The Democrats feed the narrative, the biased left-wing press takes the narrative out there. Bill Richardson, I'll give you an example. He said that Ted Cruz, before Mr. Richardson passed away, said that Ted Cruz shouldn't be considered a Hispanic. Why? Because he wasn't a left-wing crazy person. And as if Ted Cruz or I, your Liberty-Loving Latino, have to give up our heritage because we're not left-wing crazy people. How insane is that? But that's the narrative being put out by the left wing in this country. That if you're Black, you have to be left-wing. If you're Latino, you have to be liberal. And nothing could be further from the truth. There is a political discussion, the Great Black Awakening, I call it, in the Black community, as they have come to realize that 70 plus years of devotion to the Democrat Party has only yielded an abortion clinic on every corner and nothing else that is positive. The Latino community recognizes that all they can anticipate and get from Democrats is more lawlessness, more lawbreaking, more instability, and more being told, hey, the harder you work, the more the government's going to take. And a lot of Latinos don't like that message. So I think that the left wing has promulgated this false narrative, and that's kind of my job, to push back on that false narrative. I love destroying what they have spent millions of dollars trying to push out there and using the same mechanisms they created to beat them over the head with it.
Well, Chris, you've also documented how Latinos helped elect President Trump, not just for political reasons, but for cultural and spiritual reasons as well. Has that been true for a long time and just not reported?
No, I think it was the catalyst, to be honest with you, Mr. Jackson. You had a Democrat Party that has, I think we can all concede, has gone bat guano crazy. They are nuts, absolutely crazy. They told Latinos that you have to believe that a man can have a baby. You've got to believe that a man can become a woman and a woman can become a man, that men belong in women's sports. And they said to the Latino community, hey, you know, about that beautiful Spanish language that is very much a part of your culture, yeah, we're going to need to change that. We write extensively about this in the book. We're not going to allow you to say Latino or Latina. As for anybody who's taken first-year Spanish courses, folks, you know that there is a feminine and masculine assigned to certain words in the Spanish language, in the Romance languages. Well, the Democrats said that's politically inconvenient for us, so we're going to have to start asking you to refer to yourself as Latinx. To which a lot of Latinos said, huh? What? No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to allow you to bastardize the Spanish language because you have a political need. That's not happening. And I think that cultural shock opened the door to so many in the Latino community to allow them to say, well, the Democrats have gone nuts. Let's hear what Trump is saying. So it opened the door, and they were receptive, and they heard law and order, America first, and a restoration of our constitutional rights as Americans and getting back to prosperity. And it was an easy sell for, well, if you look at the polling, the majority of Latino men in this country voted for President Trump.
Well, one quick question before we go. I've noticed that you've credited President Trump with being the first president to stand up against Christian genocide, most recently reported in Nigeria. Why does that resonate so well with the Latinos?
Because a lot of us, I think we referenced this earlier in our discussion, that not every Hispanic, but a lot of Latinos have a cultural religious background. Many are Catholics, many are Christians, many have a fundamental belief in our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And when you see presidents like George W. Bush, who was supposed to be a Christian, right? Only gave lip service to protecting Christian values abroad and in this country. And you see President Trump actually taking action toward that. You saw more reflections of Ronald Reagan, who stood up for our Christian values and our Christian underpinnings in this country, in President Trump and his devotion, saying, you know, I'm not just going to give it a speech or lip service. I'm actually going to put the full force of the United States behind it. I think a lot of Latinos will say, you know, everybody's faith deserves to be defended. Nobody should pay with their life because of their faith. Amen. And that goes for us Christians too. Well,
Chris Salcedo, it's been delightful to have you on. We'll do it again. And good luck with the book. Tell our viewers where they can get it as we show the cover.
Well, you know what? You can get it right now. It's on pre-order. Make my publisher very, very happy. Just go to Amazon.com and type in Rise of the Liberty-Loving Latino, and you can pick it up and save yourself a couple of bucks. It hits stores on December 9th. Perfect gift for any liberty lover in your life.
Well, thank you. And in a moment, hope for all and your emails. I'll be right back. You know, we are a nation of immigrants. I am pro-immigration. We're a melting pot. Our nation has come from the nations of the world, typically a people who fled difficult places and circumstances. They migrated to our nation, often with great difficulty, great sacrifice, in hopes of building a better future. Many of them have come in, they have studied, they've worked, they've passed the citizenship test, they've raised their right hand and pledged allegiance to the flag and to the Constitution and to this nation. Many had tears of joy when they received that piece of paper that said they were American citizens. Our nation is a very unique experiment in human civilization. There's never been anything quite like it. But that experiment came under attack during the Biden administration. We witnessed an intentional dismantling of boundaries and borders. And it was all wrapped in a great deal of language that suggests compassion, that an open border is the ultimate expression of compassion. And tragically, too many churches picked up that mantra. I don't think what we witnessed was compassion at all. Anytime we encourage people to engage in a behavior that begins with illegal, we're not being kind, we're promoting lawlessness, and the church cannot be a part of that. I believe we have to support the efforts right now to remove those people who are here that are violent criminals. We've got to support ICE. They deserve our support, even more importantly, our prayers. We'll be right back. Many of you send us emails. We are bundling up those emails. We're going to do an entire show talking about the concerns you have for what's happening in our nation and even in the church. So if you haven't sent us an email recently, this is your opportunity. You go to ajnow.com, send us the concerns you have for our nation in the upcoming year, or maybe for the church. We want to know what you're thinking about, what you're concerned about. We're going to take a whole show and respond to that. I'm looking forward to it. Your thoughts, they make a difference. Thank you for spending a few minutes with us, and I pray you have a good evening.